And now to move on to our next guest. Hannah Crane is part of the senior leadership team at Street Games. As Director of People and Partnerships, Hannah leads on Street Games strategy in relation to workforce, youth development, and health and well-being. After working in finance and then the skills, training and education industry, Hannah moved to work into sport and has specialised in community sport, supporting partners to respond to policy and increase on traditional participation. In addition, Hannah volunteers as a youth mentor for the London Borough of Sutton, a youth leader for Girl Guiding, and is a trustee for Girl Guiding London South West and the Sport for Development Coalition. Hannah, welcome to the ICOACHKIDS Conference.
Hi, Gary. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and excellent speakers so far. So I feel very pleased to be part of your event. So as Gary said, my name's Hannah Crane. I am the Director of People and Partnerships at Street Games, and I'm here to talk to you really about the core of what Street Games does, why it exists, and how we operate. And really that does focus on putting young people at the heart of your sports delivery. So hopefully a really good fit with what Laura and Amanda have already said. So I'm going to talk, as I say, about why Street Games exists. So we've been around for about 15 years now, and our core purpose is to try and reduce the inequality of participation between those young people who live in our most underserved communities across the UK and their more affluent peers. And unfortunately, over the last few decades, there hasn't been much change. Those young people who do live in those areas, we describe them as underserved communities, but sometimes they're called disadvantaged communities, and they are chiefly made up of families who are from low income backgrounds. Young people who grow up in those areas are half as likely to be regularly active. They're half as likely to receive coaching. They're half as likely to volunteer. And they're half as likely to be taking part in any kind of sport outside of school. So that is really a big gap, and obviously a significant thing we're looking to address. And we talk very much about our end game. I'm giving you a few snapshot slides here of our new strategy, which is due to be published in the next few weeks. But our end game is really focused on that idea of making sure all those young people in the underserved communities that we support have access to sport, and that they have the opportunity to play whatever sport it is that they like, that it isn't just about one size fits all, and that in the long run, they have the opportunity to take their sport to whatever level it is that suits them, that they want to take part in. And in particular, that there is a year-round offer close enough to home to make it easy to access. Because in fact, not having something within a mile of your home is one of the biggest barriers that young people in the UK talk about in terms of access to sport. So about how we do it. So we work with a whole network of what we describe as locally trusted organisations. Those are really important words there. So local, ideally within a mile of where young people are living, although some people will travel further. Trusted, so they need to be organisations that the young people feel trust in, but also that their parents or the community trusts. So quite often they're organisations that have been around a while or are led by people who they already know. And we've got a real mixture of who those locally trusted organisations are across Street Games. And again, that's really crucial because, as already been touched, there's no one size fits all for young people. They need to go and take part in sport in organisations and in places that are their choice, that fit them. So these organisations are this kind of brief makeup of what our network looks like. We have about 1,600 locally trusted organisations that affiliate with us across the UK. Biggest number of those are charitable trusts, as you can see, but some constituted clubs who are also registered with the National Governing Bodies of Sport in the UK, as well as education bodies, our local authorities, and community interest companies. So a really good mix. And those organisations all have a few things in common, and it's those things that are in particular important to us. So they all work to deliver physical activity to those young people in those areas of underserved communities. And they all take part and join what we would describe really as a movement. And we talk about our kind of approach to community development as asset-based community development. Lots of you will have come across that in many places, but in particular, we talk about that in how you deliver good quality sport to young people. So I've talked about the why and a little bit of the how, but what do we mean when we're talking about high quality sport to young people? So we use the phrase doorstep sport, and it's really, really specific, although it doesn't at all mean that you have to be involved with anything Street Games does to be doing it. Doorstep sport is about the methodology that you use when you're delivering your sport. So as you can see at the center of this diagram is young people. So your audience and your young people are the center of what you do, and they are the start point for everything you plan. So really good to hear both Laura and Amanda talk about exactly that, about youth voice and about what young people want from sport being the center, because that has to be where you begin. We then talk, as you can see, hopefully a little bit clearly, but I can share these slides afterwards. So the outer ring then is about the organization. And as I say, the key elements of that organization to enable that really good quality doorstep sport to take part. So first of all, at the top there, we talk about partnerships. So no organization can do this and reach the audience it wants to on its own. You need to form really strong partnerships in your local area. We talk there about the ethos of an organization. So putting young people at the heart and making youth voice central to what you do. About being stable and trusted. So as I say, those organizations need to have been around for a while, or they need to have been formed and be worked at by people who are from the community you're trying to work in. And then right staff, which links directly on. So who is running the sessions, who's leading the organizations is absolutely central. And if they don't connect with the young people, then nothing you put on will work. And then into the key elements. So again, chiming with what some of our speakers have already said, but young people come to sessions for a number of different reasons. They're looking for different things, but in the main, all of our young people will, I'm sorry, I'm working from home and my cat's making noise. Stop it. All of our young people share these key elements about what it is they want. They want rewards and rewarding sport. So what does that mean in this context? They want to see themselves developing. They might not want to have the best forehand in the country, but they do want to see themselves getting a little bit better. And so quite often that's just comparing themselves against their own development, not even about each other. They want personal development. So actually lots of young people talk about their interest and need and using sport to broaden other areas of their lives. They also want a year-round offer. So actually most young people want something that they can come back to time and time again. They don't necessarily want something that just pops in for a few weeks and then disappears again. So all of those elements around the outside are for us about good quality doorstep sport. And they are what makes any community and any young person healthier, safer and more successful, which is our central ethos and the purpose of sport for us. But a little bit more in terms of what that technically means. And I hope you can see these photos because they mean a lot to me, because they're about the young people we work with and they're in the communities that we support. So we talk about doorstep sport being made up of the 5 rights. And so very, very by definition, how you get something right is entirely determined by the audience. So we talk about the 5 rights as the right time, the right place, the right price, the right style, and the right people. And those rights will be different for everyone. So I've given a few examples here because I think sometimes understanding your audience and getting things right involves a little bit of thinking outside the box. So that first picture at the top there, which is the mums pushing the buggies, this was all about the right time. If you're looking to engage busy mums, and we work a lot with teenage mums who are under a lot of pressure from very different, lots of different things are happening in their lives, then actually you need to make it as easy for them to build in their physical activity to their existing daily routine. So this mums club met at the school gates, and they went for their walk, which turned into running later on from the school gates, because all those mums had to be there at 8:45 to do the drop off every morning anyway. So all you were doing is making that journey to and from school a little bit longer. You weren't asking them to leave the house again. You weren't asking them to get dressed again differently. It was all about making it as easy for them and fitting into their daytime activities already. Right place. So I don't know what you would perceive that picture bottom left of your screen to be, but that clearly is a golf course. I can't imagine you would think it's anything else. So right place is about being creative with the spaces that you use. So that you might think it's a car park with a lot of bins and skips in it, but I would say that's a golf course, and one of the best in the country, I'm sure. So this particular project, they had a group of young people, and you can see, if you look closely at the back of that picture, there's a football pitch, and then behind that there's some trees, and right there was a golf club, but a golf club that these young people never thought was going to welcome them and never thought they were going to get into. So they worked with their youth workers, and they designed their own mini golf club. And of course, this was not only was it inspiring and wonderful for them, but it persuaded the local golf club to work a little bit more with this youth centre. But here they are creating their own golf club in the space that was theirs. So they were able to use this car park because this was at a time when the centre was shut, where they would meet. So they could use the car park. They found random things around that they could access and use either for free, or people were happy to let them borrow. And then they created their own golf course. So that place was safe for them. It felt safe and it felt like theirs. And so that's why that was the right place. Next one's about price. So these young people live in that housing block at the back of the picture, but they play sport on that beach because it's free to walk onto that beach. And so as soon as you deliver activity on that beach, you're removing any venue costs from your costs. So it doesn't remove all costs, but it makes it as cheap as it possibly can. And when you're thinking about reaching young people from those communities, you need to make it as cheap as you can. In the UK, the most recent piece of research that was published at the end of 2020 told us that families have on average £3.21 to spend on sport per week for the whole family. So if your session is £1 or £2, you're already at risk of eating up most of the budget that family has. And as soon as you go above that, you're excluding any family that's got more than one child. You're excluding parents from doing whatever they're doing. So as cheap as you possibly can when you're working with these families. Right people. So that is a group of dancers from Leeds, and they set up their own dance group, a group of girls who wanted to dance, couldn't find anywhere locally to do it, started working with a youth centre, and they've been running a good few years now, run a very successful dance movement, which last year, in fact, during lockdown in the UK, included dancing in the streets, where they would have an instructor stand in the middle of the street, and they would find spaces where the girls could stand in gardens or distance from each other in the housing estate so that they could all dance. So right people, that drive, that commitment to do something different. And for those young people to feel connected to that individual, it's absolutely key. And then the last right is right style. And this is one of my all-time favorite pictures, because some people don't notice what's a bit odd about this picture. But if you're canny, you'll have spotted that there's this young footballer on the right-hand side is carrying her handbag. And I can only imagine, for those of you coached this sport, are now listing the risk assessment issues and the health and safety problems with it. But what I see is a young woman who on that day had stuff going on in her life that meant she couldn't put that handbag down. She didn't feel safe leaving it. She didn't feel safe leaving it, and she didn't want to put it down. And what happened is that the coach adapted the game. They talked about how they made this okay for this girl to take part, and then they managed it. So this young lady, who might otherwise have been excluded from a really important day for her, as you can see, these guys are in uniform. This was a competition that they'd managed to get through from their community group. They found a way to make it work. And that's right style, finding whatever it is that makes it work for those young people. I won't talk to this last slide, but I think the slides will get shared afterwards. But just a little bit of a synopsis there about what doorstep sport is and what it means. And just to echo what's already been said today, we specialise in that in young people aged 5 to 24, but actually really specifically around young people who don't have a positive experience of sport, certainly don't necessarily take part of sport outside of school and outside of those compulsory spaces, and in particular with teenagers who are high risk of dropout, of taking part not at all, let alone only rarely. So that doorstep sport methodology is built on those principles of engaging those who are least able, least likely to engage. I hope it wasn't too whistle-stop tour for you. I'll leave my details there. If anyone does want to get in contact and ask any questions, please do. As I say, our strategy will be published in the next few weeks, and it will be full of that type of information, and all of our research and insight is on our website and available for free. So please do, if we can be of use or service to you, please do let me know.
Hannah, thank you so much for not only your overview of doorstep sport, but for bringing it to life with such rich stories that are grounded in what is going on currently within your organisation. It's also really important to just really emphasise that sport happens not only in the lines of the pitch or the court, but beyond. And it was certainly reassuring to me that a car park can be a golf course, because far too many of my shots end up there. So hopefully there is a space in that sport for me. One of the questions that has come in from our audience has asked, are some sports better suited to being doorstep sports?
Oh, great question. So actually, we focus quite a lot of our work on helping traditional sports work with young people who they might not otherwise reach, but also trying to make sure that young people have access to any sport they like. We very much come from the ethos of, if you're prepared to be flexible, then any sport works in this space. But it does require some thinking through, and we've had some brilliant debates over the years of, can you play cricket but not with a cricket bat, and can you play volleyball but without a net? And our answer is always yes. You've just got to find the creative way of managing it. So we would say any sport. But of course, the jumpers for goalposts, etc., make some sports easier to translate with very little equipment. But anything and everything.
And I noticed there the partnership with Sport England. We've had a question asking, is there a doorstep sport initiative in other parts of the UK?
Yes, so we cover the whole of the UK. Yeah, well, good question, actually. We cover the whole of the UK. The bulk of our work is in England and Wales. Of our 1,600 or so organisations, I'd say probably 1,500 are in England and Wales. We do a little bit in Scotland and a teeny tiny bit in Northern Ireland, nowhere near as much as we'd like to. And so that's where the bulk of our charitable purpose is primarily focused across the UK. However, we have done a bit of work with other countries. So there are some doorstep sports in Malta, and there's a couple of doorstep sports in Kosovo. So just where we found a partner who really wanted to try something different, we have worked with them, yes.
And I guess we've got time for one final question. What is your view on doorstep sport challenging the socio-economic divide? Is this an initiative that actually brings people from different groups together, as well as providing for those that might not be able to afford access to what might look like traditional sporting routes?
Yeah, and actually that's a really important question. Our focus is to provide sport locally in those areas that have less access, but absolutely to not create any kind of barrier at the doorway, because of course young people will be interacting, or hopefully young people will be interacting with people at school or in other areas of their lives. And the idea that you can go to this club but your friend can't because they have a different postcode would be really anti the ethos that we operate in. So the idea is that anyone can take part, but we want to focus the activity in those bits of the country that have least. And then, make sure the doors are open to all.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you for also sharing your contact details at the end of your presentation. I know we have lots of audience members chomping at the bit to get in touch and find out more about each of the initiatives today. So expect your email inbox and your phone to go off the hook this evening. But thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.